Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. So I'm really happy to be. I'm really happy to be in this room to make this presentation. I'm Faidrex. My name is Faidrex Zahiti. I'm Ivorian. I come from the Ivory Coast, but I live in Toronto. I live in Toronto, Canada. All right, so it's important for me to really to mention that. So today, before we tackle the subject, I'd like to give a brief overview uh, of the job that I do, in the CRAD. The CRAD, the CRAD is the framework or center of reflection on action for development. It was formed to assist vulnerable people and communities in society in general and Cote d'Ivoire, or the Ivory Coast in particular, on the one side, and create bridges for economic, social, and cultural cooperation on the other. Our tools are international relations, like we're doing right here, cultural exchanges, the development of economic bridges for self-sufficiency for all partners involved, nationally, regionally, and internationally. Our objectives are to develop. At this center, what we do is we develop ideas and reflect on actions for organization and nations development. We foster mentality change and social inclusion through sensitization campaigns. We revive, we look to revive the spirit of community participation and volunteerism. And finally, we do diplomacy with authorities to foster political will, because sometimes we have to go to politicians to get them to make certain decisions or pass, certain laws. So that's what we do, at the CRAD, and I'm the global outreach manager, So this is what I'm doing now, so, coming into contact with people, talk to people, to really develop ideas, to see what we can do together, how we can tackle issues together. So now, on my topic proper, stepping into uncharted waters for youth and their partners, embracing a new mentality for a new area. I was telling friends that since the creation of the UN, a lot of initiatives, a lot of projects have been launched for youth, for communities, for nations. A lot of projects are out there. So now, in 2015, the goal or the problem is no longer to create or produce more initiatives. What do we do to make sure the initiatives that we have already produced work? A lot of projects there. So why waste time producing new while we don't even know, we don't even have the right mentality to implement those we have in store? So here we're talking about cultural diplomacy. But I sat down for a few minutes and I kind of figured out that it is not just having the good intention of wanting to do diplomacy. But I think there is a manner, there is a way in which diplomacy can be effective. There are barriers to diplomacy. Unless you do that, whatever diplomacy, whatever action, initiatives you undertake are going to fail. That's why the goal of my presentation is to talk about that mentality. How do we make sure that whatever initiative, whatever diplomacy we're doing work? So the necessary reality and mentality to embrace if we want diplomacy to be effective. The necessary reality and mentality to embrace. I'll read right from here. One of the speakers said Tuesday that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with the others. This points to collaboration, teamwork, if not diplomacy. Now, cultural diplomacy doesn't just happen because we engage in it or because we have the best of intentions, but because we use and adapt the methods that make it happen. The way we view and approach others determine the way we work with them and how much we can get things done with them. If you think that working with such and such people won't bring you opportunities, uh, or if working with, for example, me working with my brother is a waste of time, or if you fail to see opportunities based on some personal reason or prejudices or bias, you won't want to work with them. You know, so if you have some bias, I mean, I see my friend from China and I've got some bias. So I can, diplomacy is that, the mentality that you have, the way I perceive her. If I have some bias, some prejudice, the diplomacy that I will undertake will fail because I started from the wrong place. You know, so this mentality is so important. I'm talking about that because the CRAD we started, you know, when I was in Africa. I've traveled a lot, you know, trying to talk with different people, and you know, in some people's mind there is a block because when you go to them, if they see that you are coming from Cote d'Ivoire, you're coming from the Ivory Coast, or you know, you don't have such and such degree, this is a block. So whatever you may tell them won't succeed. That's why we need to break down barriers for true cultural diplomacy to succeed. That's why I think the right mentality is openness. It is openness, it is flexibility. I don't believe in diplomacy as begging and sharing, you know. I know that sometimes, you know, northerners and southerners, I mean, so-called developed countries and developing countries, they have to come together. But what we tend to see is that the diplomacy that we tend to see between the two blocks is we see one block, you know, trying to, you know, perceive as coming to, you know, to help, to give money, and the other block is coming from the south, coming to beg. You know, here diplomacy is not about begging. Diplomacy because you have something that I don't have. I have something that you don't have. So we come together to share, you know. So diplomacy, there is no superiority. So we also must have this mentality. If I come to you because you are from, you know, the U.S. and you already see me as somebody. Oh, I will have to give money to Faidrex again. I will be the one, you know, funding. If there is such barriers, we can talk because you have a bias, you know. Same also for me if I talk to somebody else. Well important. So perception change is the imperative for collaborating and effective diplomacy. Whether you work as an individual, an NGO, a professional, a teacher, a professor, or a government official, a student, etc., whatever we do, we must change our methods and institutions to make feasible our aspirations in order to make things happen. We must see and recognize others as useful partners, not people I can use and manipulate. If you engage in diplomacy to manipulate people, to use them, then this is, you know, at the end of the day, they will realize that you are not really trying to talk to them. You are trying to manipulate them, and they will bow out. See what I'm saying? So we must see and recognize others as useful partners, not people I can use and manipulate, or not people that I go to only when I need them, or out of pity, you know, but rather as people and partners who possess knowledge and competence that I don't have. People with whom I can be better. That is the basis on which we have to connect. That's the basis on which we have to connect. We have to build sound relationship, talk to know each other, build common ground. And my great inspirator is MLK. But I studied American civilization, and you know, uh, my greatest inspirator is Martin Luther King. It's a shame that most people know only "I Have a Dream." But I encourage everybody to read all his book and really know the death of Martin Luther King. So Martin Luther King, what he says can be tied into cultural diplomacy. He says that it really boils down to this, that all life is interrelated. We are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied into a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. We are made to live together because of the interrelated structure of reality. Did you ever stop to think that you can't leave for your job in the morning without being dependent on most of the world? You get up in the morning and go to the bathroom and reach over for the sponge, and that is handed to you by a Pacific Islander. You reach for a bar of soap, and that is given to you at the hands of a Frenchman. And then you go into the kitchen to drink coffee for the morning, and that is poured into your cup by a South American. And maybe you want tea that is poured into your cup by a Chinese. I greet my Chinese sister over there. Or maybe you are desirous of having cocoa for breakfast, and that is poured into your cup by a West African. By the way, Cote d'Ivoire is the world leading producer of cocoa. So this is me. And then you reach over for the toast, and that is given to you at the hands of an English-speaking farmer. I know that there is an English woman here, right? Not to mention the baker. And before you finish eating breakfast in the morning, you have depended on more than half of the world. This is the way our universe is structured. This is its interrelated quality. We are not going to have peace on earth until we recognize this basic fact of the interrelated structure of all reality. So Martin Luther King points to the fact that the recognition of a global citizenship sets the right platform and disposition for cultural diplomacy. It is not emotion, pity, or assistance. It is a fact that the world was created that way. I know that everyone has their own interests.
2 minutes.
Oh, no problem.
What a nice speaker.
I'm a pacifist, Martin Luther King.
What a nice speaker.
It is a fact that the world was created that way. I know that everyone has their own interest and field of specialization. So based on that, we tend to go towards this person rather than that person, which is normal, I understand. But a new imperative of cultural diplomacy demands that we take more time, to explore, to see if we can't work together. Like I came here, I've got some water from England, China, from Latin America. So I can say, for example, if a person here is specializing in medicine, you know, from afar, I can say, oh, we have nothing in common, But actually, if we sit down, if we exchange, will find out that we have more in common than what we didn't have. You know, that's the reason why coming here, I like to, I know my time is out, so this is my life. So that's why coming here,
Almost.
I've been really privileged, I've been really privileged to meet, people from all over the world. For a long time, I've been looking forward to talk with people from Afghanistan. I don't know if the guy from Afghanistan is still here.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to talk with people from Afghanistan because I see in the news Afghanistan, bomb, 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 and all the other guys. So I like I like to keep in touch with everybody here, to talk, to exchange, and we will find common ground. We'll find common areas. Thank you, everybody. God bless you.
Thank you. That's good. One question, and then we need to give one announcement, and then.
One question.
Yeah.
Tell me, according to your theory, the good democracy or diplomacy means the relationship of merchant with buyer.
Pardon? Is bias?
Yeah, merchant with buyer.
Can anybody? Merchant?
Buyer.
Merchant and buyer. Bias?
Yeah,
Buyer.
according to your theory.
No, I say that bias. If I've prejudice, I'm selling this microphone. I'm American. You're a buyer. I sell it to you. There is no bias here.
It's a good diplomacy here.
Pardon?
You said the good diplomacy that is the relationship of change something.
Yeah. If anybody can help me. I'm not getting. Can anybody translate what he's saying? I'm not getting.
Je peux le faire. Il dit tu disais que le bon vente, c'est quand plus quand une people veut faire.
Quand il y a échange, par exemple,
Quand il y a échange.
elle achète et puis vend. Donc toi tu me donnes ce que je dois acheter, moi je donne l'argent. C'est ça une bonne diplomatie. Ça on peut savoir.
Si c'est la bonne diplomatie. Well, I mean, I'm a seller. I'm a seller. I manufacture and I sell something. Then you are the customer. I sell my product to you. You buy it. I mean, I don't see any bias in that. You see what I'm saying?
Well, you can continue the debate either in French or in English or whatever other language, but we need to finish this session, and
Okay.
you've got an announcement to make.